What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing a spoiler-free review of a movie that is from Morocco called Achoura. So let's get into it. So Achoura came up on my radar because Dark Star Pictures is going to be putting this out in December. I don't know the exact date, but it's going to be on DVD and Blu and possibly VOD. This is a movie that has had a little bit of a troubled past getting some distribution, it seems, as the movie was made back in about 2015. At least that's when the movie wrapped. Then it was brought to Synopsis back in 2019 and even reviewed. And now we're finally getting to see it in the public. And I got a screener copy from Dark Star. Thank you very much. And I'm going to tell you all about it. So Achoura is a holiday that is celebrated in Morocco where a bunch of children get together and they celebrate being children. It's called Children Night. And they basically splash each other with water, squirt guns, balloons, the works. This story is a sort of legend from Morocco and North Africa where they have a child-eating creature that resurfaces on this night and spans across 3 generations of children to tell this wild, crazy, child-eating tale known as Bugatat. I'm not sure. Essentially, what we're doing is following 4 children who had an experience that was pretty horrific when they were children. And as they've gotten older, they've sort of forgotten it and are reunited with one of their long-lost friends who they never knew what happened to him. Now, as I said, this spans 3 generations of children, so there is this creature that goes around basically eating children. This movie is directed and written by Talal Salhami, who actually did a movie called Mirages and a video game, surprisingly, called Tell Me Why, which I've never heard of. He had 2 additional writers on this movie, David Villemin and Jawad Lalou, so they did have a team of people writing on this. Now, if you've seen the trailer, which I will include down below, and I urge you to check it out, this is a creature that is pretty freaky looking. It's got some black eyes, its mouth opens up, it swallows children. It's pretty horrific. So what did I think of this movie? Originally, when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, wow, this is like a creature feature from like a legend in another country that I could totally get into. And, you know, actually, it wasn't too bad. I did enjoy the movie. It did take its time getting to where I started really kind of hyper-focusing on the movie. It takes about 44 minutes to get into that spot. You're following sort of these things that happen. They have, of course, a stinger in the beginning of something that happened long ago, and raised a few eyebrows there because I was like, wait, it involves child marriage at first, which apparently was a thing in Morocco years ago. Like I said, 3 generations. It spans a long time. There's a whole history on that I don't want to get into, but it raised my eyebrow for a second there. Now, when I watched this movie, initially, I immediately recognized the score. They are going for a more traditional style score that you would get in a traditional style movie. I mean, obviously, they're trying to play this as a very serious role, a very serious movie, and everything is about this legend. Now, there are going to be some similarities here to, I wouldn't say another legend, but another story that we all here pretty much know. That is It, the clown from It. This is very, very reminiscent of that. I don't know that it necessarily borrows from it. This is obviously based on a legend of a creature named the Bugatat, and I don't think that necessarily that is, but there have been other stories about child eating in legends and things like that. Who knows, maybe It borrowed it from this legend. But it looks completely different. It doesn't have wisecracks or anything like that in this movie. This is all played very straight. It does have some atmosphere. There is subtitles, so you're not going to be able to watch this movie without them unless you speak the language, which, you know, obviously I would always highly encourage you to watch the subtitles so that you could get the feel of the acting and everything. Speaking of which, the acting in this movie is okay. It's above average. It does get better. There is a lot of children in the movie that you're going to be seeing acting as well, and that's always kind of a mixed bag anyway. But for the most part, I think all of them did a really decent job. the adults that these kids play as well, because this movie sort of bounces around in time to sort of unveil this story of this creature and why it's eating people and what they're doing to stop it or not stop it. And it all kind of finishes up with a semi-satisfactory ending that kind of leaves a lot of questions. But, you know, the movie is actually pretty decent. I think this is a movie that a few people will enjoy if you are into sort of the lore and folklore and these folk tales from different countries, because it's kind of interesting to kind of peer in on them and see what they have. We've been getting a lot of that recently from many different countries, which is great. They initially compared this to It versus the Babadook, which I think is partially right. I didn't really get the Babadook vibe, but I could see where they get that from a little bit. I would say it definitely has some It vibes to it with something else. I'm not sure exactly what that is. Now, there is a lot of CGI in this movie, but the creature is actually pretty interesting looking and kind of creepy. I wasn't really as deep in the movie as I wanted to be, but you know, by the end, I kind of felt like I enjoyed myself a lot more than I was expecting in the very beginning. So definitely hang in there if you're going to watch this movie past the 44-minute mark, because you're going to get a lot more and it's going to come at you a lot faster and pick up the pace. There are some scenes in this movie that I didn't necessarily buy or feel authentic, because it didn't really kind of press on their relationship as children for me to really understand their bond as a friendship. And I feel like that's kind of strong when you're playing sort of this sort of movie that is very reminiscent to It. And I don't want to be reductive and take away from the movie, because there are going to be fans of this movie in a different way than they would find with It, because it is very different. Although you will find a lot more crazy stuff in the movie like It than you would with this one. But there are still some things to be seen on hand here that do kind of, there's one scene in particular that I enjoyed involving the creature and a child that was pretty cool looking. I will give it that. All in all, this is an okay movie, better than an average movie that is just hard to shake its similarities. And unfortunately, you know, because of that, I think it kind of takes away from the experience for me, had I not seen movies that it kind of mimics in some way, even though it may not mimic him intentionally. As I said, this is a legend, so it definitely has that vibe though. So perhaps maybe you would like to see it. I would give it like a 6 out of 10. I think it has some things that are kind of cool in the movie while not necessarily being that scary for me. The music, while it's really great, felt a little too traditional for me to really get behind. And I feel like the music could have gone a little bit more eerie instead of as whimsical and, you know, orchestrated like it was. I feel like it could have really brought me into some of the atmosphere that they were trying to portray, and unfortunately it just didn't do it for me. But this movie is going to be coming out in December, so you might want to check it out for yourself. It'll be out on the DVD shelf from Dark Star Pictures. Again, thank you so much for allowing me to screen this film and check it out. I did enjoy it. So what do you guys think? Have you seen this? Did you go to Cinepocalypse back in 2019 and catch it at one of the festivals? What do you think about this movie, and would you be willing to watch it? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I would love to hear from you guys. If you enjoy this content, I will be putting out more. I'm sorry that I'm a little late last week. There's just been a lot going on in my life lately, and I apologize for that. I'm going to try to make up for it this week and next and continue forward. So thank you so much for coming by, and as always, long live the voyage.